Hi everybody, welcome to Speedway Motors. My name's Tim. I'm always so glad when you can join us and we can talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's old school Ford parts. Today I brought a brake setup with me to talk a little bit about a question that we get a lot here with regards to which drums can be used with our Lincoln style juice self-energizing backing plates. And this is a really killer setup that we sell. It comes fully loaded just like you see it, with all the shoes, the wheel cylinder springs, everything you need. It's a really nice thick steel backing plate that emulates the old Lincoln style brakes. This thing's going to give you years of trouble-free service, especially if you don't want to have to source old school 44 juice brakes. This is actually a step up in performance with the self-energizing aspect, but it also just makes it easy. It's all brand new stuff. It's going to go together really smooth. But one of the questions we get a lot of in the call center, and the techs asking me about all the time, is, Tim, I'll either get somebody that's asking about using a wide 5 drum or a Buick fin drum on our loaded backing plate. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what needs to happen to make this all work together. I know this because I've been working on my hot rod and I've had to kind of learn this all the hard way. So we'll walk through it a little bit today. First, I wanted to talk about the Buick drums themselves. This particular Buick drum is one of mine that I found at a swap meet a long time ago, and it's actually the more desirable 45 finned unit. So these actually are 45 fins spaced an inch apart. This was the earlier style. This would have come on like a 1957 LeSabre. Later they came out with a 90 fin drum, and it looked almost exactly the same, except the fins were stacked a lot closer together and they just had a little bit different look. This one's been a staple in the hot rodding world for a long time, and people would polish these up and make them look really pretty. They actually make a brake kit now that conceals a disc brake inside some drums like this. But if you're a purist like me, you really want the same stuff that your grandpa would have run on his car. So that's why I'm talking about this, and why I went through all the work to make this happen. The first thing you're going to find when you come across an old set of Buick drums is a lot of times it'll have the hub still attached to it. They're actually pressed on with some rivets that have to be ground down to take the original hub off. And because Buick and early Ford have two different bolt circles, you'll have to re-drill this for your 5-on-5 early Ford big pattern, which is what I did. So I got it working there so the hub itself will fit. On the back side, you'll want to make sure that your Buick drums, if you find a set at a swap meet, this has some bluing on it because I was checking for clearances and whatnot, but you'll want to make sure that you have plenty of brake liner left. There are companies out there that can reline your Buick fin drums. It's not a cheap proposition, but most of the time when you find these, the cars didn't have a ton of miles on them anyway, so a lot of times they're good. You'll want to check them for balance too, because as you can imagine, creating a casting that's kind of a dual casting with aluminum on the outside and cast iron on the inside, it was a tricky thing to accomplish, even in the 50s for a big company like General Motors. So make sure it balances out really nice. This particular one checked out, so I drilled it. Everything's good to go as far as the hub. When we get to the question of the hub, I brought along one of my Speedway hubs. This is actually brand new out of the box, just like you would order it from us. This emulates an early Ford hub, so it's going to have the same bolt circle, use the same bearings as an early Ford hub. But the only problem with this is, and this gets into one of the modifications you need to make, is this hub is wider than the flat surface on the Buick drum itself. So if you want to run your hub on the inside, which is what I desired to do, some folks run it on the outside with different types of hubs, but if you want to use this hub from us, running it on the inside is key. So I actually put this hub on a lathe and I turned down the outside edge. So now it actually fits right inside that flat area without any issues. Because what would happen is if you had any gap there, obviously when you tighten your lug nuts, you're going to crack your drum, and that's not going to be a good scenario. So once you do that, you're in good shape on the back side. On the front side, I don't have it with me, but I created a little spacer ring just to fit on the outside of the hub, but just inside the drum to keep everything concentric. That's really important, and any machine shop can make those for you. We're actually in the process of getting those made here at Speedway. So if you need a set, if you're doing this exact same setup and you're using our brand new hub with your Buick drums, we can get you that little spacer, no problem. So I'll show you how this all goes together and just how it fits with the backing plate. And I'll start by just putting the hub on really quick. I've already got my inner bearing on the spindle there, so no issue there. Of course, you'd want to grease this all up if it was going on a car. But we'll just kind of put it together just to mock it up for you. And as you see, the hub just fits like a dream. They're a great piece. I've been running a set of these on my old hot rod now, and they're great. It kind of gives you the idea. Of course, you'd want to drop your cotter key in there to make everything go. I'll just kind of slip this drum back on and we can have a look at it. Again, you'd want to take up that little bit of space with that additional little steel ring, which really easy to come up with. I'm going to slip a couple lug nuts on it just to hold it tight. And then we'll give it a spin. But you can't get a better look than some Buick fin drums. A lot of people ask me, Tim, is it okay to run Buick fin drums with wire spoke Ford wheels? And actually, by the time guys were using these Buick drums, the 40 Ford steel wheel was out, so they probably are more appropriate with a steel wheel, but there you have it. And you can see how this all fits together, and it looks really nice. The brake pads come right into contact with the braking surface, so you're not going to have any issues there. Everything looks great. The other thing, I'm going to mention this too because it's important, and I just remembered it. On Buick fin drums, there's a little area that you may have to machine out. It was one of the first things I did on this darn drum, and I almost forgot all about it, but I'll show it to you here. When you take these off of a Buick, there's a raised edge here right by where the brake liner is. Most all the hot rodders back in the day would have machined that down. And the reason is so it doesn't come into contact with this edge here. There's plenty of space on this particular drum after I milled that down. I actually milled this at first to work with 44 juice brakes, but as you can see, it had no issues with clearance. Of course, there's no markings on the inside where this is all blue to see if I ran into any of the mechanicals of the brakes. So really cool setup. I'm excited to get them on my hot rod. And of course, if you're doing the same thing and you have questions, feel free to let us know. We'd love to see your setup, and if you run into any obstacles, we can definitely talk you through them. We have a great tech staff here on board at Speedway. We're always happy to answer your questions. You can check out our YouTube page, or you can ask your questions directly on our website, and we're happy to get back to you. So as you know, I love talking about these old parts, and they're even better when they're on a car going down the road. If you have questions, give us a holler. We're always happy to help, and we hope we see you back again next time, folks. Till then, take care.